Hey there, GoPro students. We're coming to the end of the year now, and normally after the AP test, this is when I do a personal finance unit, and this is also when we usually do GoPro songs. Obviously, can't do either of those. The songs are usually really fun. In fact, on my YouTube channel, I'm sure you've gone and seen some of the songs in the past that I've posted up on there. I'm disappointed we don't do that because I'm sure a lot of you would be having a good time making fun of me and making fun of the class and poking fun. That's really good time, and I miss that. But at least I can still do the personal finance unit. I think it's going to be several videos. I'm going to try and keep them under about maybe 20 or 30 minutes each. So let me tell you what this unit is for you, okay? This is not a get rich quick personal finance unit. I am not going to teach you how to become the overnight millionaire from Shark Tank or anything like that. What I am going to try to teach you how to do is just make some good decisions with money as it comes along. And I'm going to try to have you avoid making mistakes, because you don't have to be a financial wizard to be financially successful. You don't have to be a numerical genius to actually become wealthy. All you have to do is just get a few things right and not do a few bad things with your money. And so I can't teach you how to get rich. I can't teach you how to make a bunch of money. But what I can do is teach you how to make good decisions with the money that you do make at all levels, whether you're low income, middle income, or high income. I'm going to teach you how to be a good decision maker with the money that you do have. Now, obviously, the fastest way to get money is to own your own business. If we look at the most common occupation that American millionaires have today, they're business owners and they're entrepreneurs that own their own business. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do that, but that is the most common path to becoming wealthy, is to own your own business. Now, it's also the most risky. Somewhere in the range of 85 to 90% of all businesses fail within the first 12 to 18 months, I think, are the statistics. I think the vast majority of those businesses also fail to become profitable within 5 years. So you're going to fail at trying a business. And my recommendation to you is keep trying. You're not going to be successful in the first one. Read a lot, learn a lot, ask questions, find a mentor. And in my opinion, the best way for you to start a business is to have a steady job where you have income coming off, and then start your business on the side when you're not working at your full-time job, and grow it slowly. Don't take on debt, because that's one of the main reasons that businesses fail. Number two, don't try to grow it too quickly, unless you have just cash rolling in from the business very, very quickly. Then it's okay, because you have the cash flow to sustain that. But the three main reasons that small businesses fail is, number one, the business owner doesn't have a business plan that they've drawn out of how to grow their business on a monthly, annual, decade basis. So whatever your idea for a business is, make sure you have a plan in place first. Have a financial plan in place, have a marketing plan in place, have a product or a service plan in place, have a plan how you plan on growing your customer base over time. What are the most effective methods to do that? Number two, don't take on debt for the business, right? Let the business cash flow itself. Don't try to take money out of the business for, well, however long it takes, until that business becomes sustainable to support you and your employees. Keep working full time and do your business on the side. Do it at night. Do it on the weekends when you're not working. And yeah, is that a lot of hours? Yes, it is. But if you want to become wealthy, the most sure way to become wealthy is to be an entrepreneur. And I got news for you. Entrepreneurs work long hours. Entrepreneurs on a regular basis, from everything I've read, on a regular basis work 60 to 80-hour work weeks when they're starting a business up. Now, it's not always that way. But it's hard work to start a business. It's long hours. It's a lot of risk. It's a lot of dedication. But if your goal is to become wealthy, that is the most true and tried way. It's not the only way, but it is the most true and tried way. So what I'm going to try and teach you how to do here in this unit, though, is not how to start a business. I'm going to teach you how, once you actually do start making money, whether that be employed by somebody else as a business owner, for you personally and your family, that's what I'm going to focus on today. So let's focus on what I call behavioral finance first. Okay. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you here. And again, if any of you have questions about any of this, if there's topics that I don't cover, personal finance is a wide variety of things to cover. There are literally thousands and thousands of topics to cover, okay? I'm gonna focus on kids at your age, and I'm gonna try to help you be in pretty good financial shape by the time you're 30 years old. That's my goal for this unit is by the time you're 30, you haven't made a ton of mistakes with your money. By the time you're 30, you have done some good savings, you've made good choices, and you have a good foundation of how you can successfully be financial for the rest of your life. So that's the goal of this unit, okay? If you have topics that you want me to cover or you want me to discuss, feel free to email me that I don't cover during this unit, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you, okay? So remember, yes, I do this for a living. I do own an investment advisory company, financial planning company. People do pay me to manage their money for them. People do pay me to develop financial plans for them. People do pay me to just give them financial advice. So what I'm doing for you is it's for free because I think this is what you need to be financially successful, okay? Now, this is just finance. Not every decision in life comes down to finance. So these are decisions that need to be taken from the financial perspective. There's other things that need to come into play than just financial decisions, but that's what I'm going to try to help you with on this unit, okay? So let me start off by sharing a screen with you here. And here we go. Okay, so normally I'm projecting this up and I'm showing you this and it's scrolling through, but anyway. So couple number one, these are both couples that are clients of mine, and they've given me permission to use these numbers. Now, I'm not going to say who they are, obviously, and I'm not going to show you pictures of them and things like that. But these couples, I've let them know that I am going to use them as examples. And why? Because they know these are for educational purposes. So couple number one, they own a brand new 2018 Mercedes. They have an income of about $200,000 a year, pretty good income, and they own a $600,000 house. Couple number two, their main vehicle is a 2009 Chevy Silverado. They have an income of around $100,000 a year, and it's actually gone up to maybe 110 now. And they bought a house for about $225,000 several years ago. Okay, so by American standards, who would we say is the wealthy couple, right? Well, almost everybody would say couple number one. They have a very nice car. They have a nice income. They live in a very expensive or a upper income style house of $600,000. Okay. Couple number two would be considered upper middle income. Middle income in the United States is a household that makes around $75,000 a year. So couple number two is middle income, but upper middle income. They drive an 11-year-old used car and they don't live in an extravagant house. They bought it for $225,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, right? So then the questions that I pose to you are, what does it mean to be wealthy? And this is the question I would ask to you as we're going through the class. What does it mean to be wealthy? And I get all kinds of answers about this of, you know, having lots of things, being able to buy whatever you want, having lots of money, things like this. My definition of wealthy is I don't like the term wealthy. I prefer to use the term financially independent, because financially independent means you don't have to work anymore if you don't want to, because you have enough money to support your lifestyle. And that's different for every individual. Some individuals have very high lifestyles. And so they may have very high incomes, but they also have very high lifestyles and they spend a lot of money. Other individuals have very frugal lifestyles and therefore they don't need a lot of money because they have enough money to support their lifestyle. So I prefer the term financial independence, FI, to the term wealthy, because financially independent means you don't have to work anymore if you don't want to. Now, whatever that lifestyle may be that you don't want to work at, if you're financially independent, you're wealthy. Now, you may be financially independent, only generating $50,000 a year of income off of whatever your wealth is. But maybe you're perfectly happy with that $50,000 a year and you don't need to work anymore. Then you're financially independent. Maybe you need $300,000 a year to support your lifestyle. Okay, well then you need a lot more money to become financially independent. But I don't like this term wealthy. I prefer the term financial independence. So now what I want to do is I want to show you the balance sheet of the supposedly wealthy and non-wealthy couple. So what Americans would consider to be wealthy is the couple that has the relatively new Mercedes, the expensive car, and the high income. So take a look at what we have here. They have a monthly income of about $16,500 a year. They only have about $4,000 in savings, even though they make roughly $200,000 a year. Well, why is that? Well, they have a $3,200 a month house payment. Okay. The total cost they're going to pay for that house is $1.1 million for what's called P&I, the principal and interest. That is, they bought $600,000 worth of house, but they're also going to have to pay about $560,000 of interest on the house. They have two brand new cars. One car is a Mercedes, another one they bought in 2016, and they're making payments on those cars. They have about $9,000 in credit card debt. And you're asking, well, how can they have $9,000 in credit card debt if they make $200,000 a year? Well, let's come down here. They have other miscellaneous debt they have would be things, they have some toys. They have a recreational vehicle, and they also have a boat. They have an expensive lifestyle. They buy a lot of things. They're very, very spendy in their ways. And we've talked about that, and they've started to realize that their lifestyle is really prohibiting them from developing the plan to financial independence. And you can see here they save about $1,200 a month. Okay, that's not bad. It's $14,400 a year, around there. Their total investments, they have about $250,000, and they have a net worth of about $350,000. They don't really have much equity in their $600,000 house. Now, the non-wealthy couple, let's look at them. They make roughly $8,000 a month. They have about $10,000 in savings. Their house, the total that they paid for their house their house is paid for is $266,000. They put down a lot of cash on the house, and they paid it off very quickly because they did not want to put and pay a lot of money in interest. The faster you pay down the house, the less interest you pay on that house. And I'll talk about buying a house and the benefits of different types of home loans and things like that. They bought both their cars in cash, and they drive used cars. They drive very old used cars. One of them's 11 years old. The other one is 14 years old. Now, look at how much money they're going to lose on the cars. Cars depreciate in value. Cars go down in value. The car that you drive on a regular basis. Look at the loss that they're going to take on their cars. They're going to lose about $60,000 on their cars. The more expensive car you buy, the bigger loss you're going to take. And I'll talk about buying a car and why cars for you are such an impediment to build wealth. But at your young age, one of the keys to building wealth is to not drive cars as much as possible, because cars are they're just a money pit. And I'll explain that later. So they don't have any credit card debt, couple number two. They don't have any college loans. They don't have any other miscellaneous debt. I need to take this off. They actually paid off their house. They have a low lifestyle. They don't buy a lot of clothes. Their cars, they don't have car payments. They don't eat out very much. They invest about $1,800 a month, and then look at their net worth down here. Okay, so they have a net worth of about $1.3 million. Now, how is that? These couples are relatively the same age. This couple's a few years older than this couple, but not by much, right? So how is it this couple that never made more than, say, $110,000 a year, how do they have such a higher net worth than this couple that now makes $200,000 a year and has for several years in a row? And the answer is it's their spending. It's their lifestyle which prohibits them. This couple is very frugal. This couple does not spend a lot of money. They invest quite a bit. They understand the idea of what's called compound interest, which I'm going to teach you about today. And they understand the value of not losing money on cars and not putting stuff on credit cards. So this couple is going to be okay if they increase their savings rate. But this is one of the lessons that you need to learn, is that your spending habits are going to dictate how financially successful you are more than the amount of money you make. Now, if you're only making $35,000 a year, okay, you can't cut back your spending anymore. I get that. But if you're making $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, and you have no savings and you have no investments, that's because you have a spending problem. Okay. And I'll teach you how to go through later on to do a budget, and that way you can get your spending under control. So I want to come with this idea about delayed gratification. We in America, we are spendy people. We love to spend money. It's kind of ingrained into our culture. We have this idea in our head that as soon as we make money, we have to spend money, right? So let's say you were making $50,000 a year and you get a raise to $60,000 a year. The first thing that pops in most Americans' heads is, what can I buy? What can I buy? Can I buy a new car? Can I go on vacation? Can I buy a bigger house? Whatever it is, what can I buy? And I think we need to change that idea. At least financially successful people, they understand this idea of what's called frugality. It's living below your means. If you were making $50,000 a year and you were happy with that lifestyle, then why do you have to spend the extra 10,000 if you got the raise of 60? It's okay to just save that extra 10,000 to use towards your financial independence, to use for the day where you don't have to work anymore. Okay. And so frugality, that is spending below what you make, is just as important as a wealth building tool as making money is. Now, making money is important. If you're only going to make $40,000 the rest of your life, you're not going to ever become wealthy. It's just not going to happen. Okay. You're going to have an income. You're going to have a business of which you make money at. But if all you do is make money, spend money, make money, spend money, well, that's like being on a treadmill that never slows down. You're never going to catch up. Okay. So my analogy is offense and defense. In the financial game of life, offense is making money, but your defense is not spending money. So for you athletes out there, imagine if your team had this great offense that scored all the time and your defense was atrocious and you couldn't stop anybody. You're not going to win many games, right? So you have to have a combination of making money and then not spending money where you have a good savings rate. Okay. Now, obviously, the fastest way for you to get to financial independence is to make as much money as you can while spending as little as you can. Now, I'm not trying to get you to just die broke here. Okay. What I'm trying to get you to this point is where you have a good financial footing and you're not stressed out by money all the time. Okay. How many of you know people, maybe your parents, grandparents, that are always stressed out month to month about money? They're stressed out about making the bills, about buying food, about making their car payment, about their cell phone bill, whatever it may be, right? And what I'm going to try to do is to have you prioritize your spending to where you're not stressed out about money, okay? All I want you to do is just think about, what am I spending money on? And what am I spending money on? Does that increase the value or the enjoyment in my life? I think what you'll find as you get older is that buying things, the novelty and the enjoyment of buying things wears off pretty darn quickly. It really does. How many of you have bought something and then a month or two later, you just don't use it anymore? It just sits there, whether it be clothes, some sort of gadget, some sort of electronic, whatever it may be, right? And so what I'm trying to do is to get you to understand is that putting your money to where it aligns with what values you have in life and what you want to get out of life. Okay. So, there's a couple of sayings of like, all flash, no cash. Whenever you see a lot of people that have very, very fancy clothes, or you see a lot of people that drive very expensive cars, or they live in very expensive houses, not everybody, but a lot of people like that are sort of just showing like they have money, but you scratch the surface a little bit and you'll find out they're in kind of financial trouble because they have car payments, they have housing payments, they eat out a lot, they have credit card payments. And so it looks like they're very wealthy, but they're really just churning through their money. Okay. So the all flash, no cash. There's a great book I would recommend that you read about this. It's called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. Okay. The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. That book will change how you view money. It's a behavioral finance book. It's not going to teach you how to start a business or how to get rich quick, but it talks about the behaviors you exhibit around money. And what he did is he went and studied decamillionaires, and he tried to find the most common denominator between these millionaires that were worth $10 million or more. They had a net worth of $10 million. And this is back in the 90s. So this book's about 15 years old, but the lessons of the book still hold true today. And what he found was that the vast majority of these decamillionaires did not spend a lot of money on flashy things. Most of them drove used cars that were 5 years or older. They bought them used. They didn't buy them new because new cars depreciate in value. And I'll go over that later. A lot of them lived in very modest homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. They didn't buy fancy designer clothes. So not to say that these people were just cheap and never went out and never did anything, but they truly did watch their spending. And they made money, but they also were very frugal with their money. They lived below their means. Okay. So I'd recommend reading that book, picking it up, The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. It's a fantastic book, and it's a good read, and I think you'll enjoy it if you're interested in this type of thing. Okay. All right. So let me show you this. At your age, let me just show you what I mean by frivolous spending at your age. Okay. How many of you know somebody that goes to Starbucks once a day, or multiple times a week? So they go to Starbucks and they spend $5 on whatever kind of coffee that is. Well, let's say they do that 4 times a week, right? That's $1,000 a year that they're spending on coffee. Okay, so if you're going to Starbucks 4 to 5 times a week, think of it that way. Most people just go, oh, it's just $5. It's just $5. Well, if you do that 4 times a week, and I bet you know some people that go several times a day, 3 to 4, 5 days a week, right? You're spending on average $1,000 to $1,200 a year on just coffee, right? Let's say you eat out and go to pizza a couple times a week, or you eat out at lunch, whatever, a couple times a week, right? I know that you seniors in high school, you guys would go out to lunch 5 days a week, right? And hey, it's just $25 for the pizza, or it's just $25 when I eat out lunch and eat out at dinner, right? Well, that comes out to $2,500 a year, right? And so you need to think of those small little expenditures that way. Think of, okay, I'm buying the Starbucks, I'm eating out at lunch, I'm just buying this $15 shirt and I just do it once a week, or whatever it may be. Those small little expenditures can really add up over the year, and you don't realize it because you're not budgeting your money. Most of you don't budget your money at all. So I'm going to give you a few apps you can use to budget your money, and I'm also going to give you a spreadsheet. You have to track your money and where it goes. You have to see where my money goes so you can see where what I refer to as leakage in the budget. So, you're going to have to create a budget. How much money do you need for rent or your mortgage? How much money do you need for funding clothes and food and for cars and saving for retirement, things like that? And I'll teach you how to do that later, okay? But just this idea of living below your means. You don't need the instant gratification of buying that thing right now, because the gratification of buying that thing right now, it wears off really, really quickly. It really does. And it's like a never-ending cycle. Hey, I bought something, it made me feel good, I like it, and then that thing wears off. And so what do I have to do to get that feeling back again? Let me go buy it again. That's the actual secret that advertisers don't tell you. Is the purpose of advertising is to make you unhappy with what you have. The purpose of advertising is to make you look at the stuff that you have and go, I don't like that stuff, I need new stuff, right? I mean, that's what advertising's for. It's to say, oh, look at these new clothes. So your clothes, those are outdated, ugly clothes. You don't want to be that one. Go get the new clothes. Hey, look at this new kitchen here. This new kitchen, look at that new kitchen. Now look at your old garbage kitchen. How can you be happy in your old garbage kitchen? You need to go remodel your kitchen. Then you'll be happy, right? Now, I'm not saying never go buy new clothes or don't remodel your home, but just be aware of that's the purpose of advertising, is to make you unhappy with the things that you have, right? Is buying the new latest and greatest iPhone when you have an iPhone that's 2 versions older, is that really going to improve the quality of your life? Spending whatever an iPhone costs now, I don't know. I buy inexpensive Androids because I refuse to pay that much for an iPhone. But is spending that much on the brand new iPhone going to make your life that much better if you have an iPhone which is 1 or 2 versions older, right? So just start changing the way you think about buying things and what brings you joy to your life, okay? So now that I've hopefully convinced you to start saving a little bit, what do you save? Okay, well, you need to start investing, okay? Now, I'm gonna stop the share of this screen right here. And I wanna show you an investment calculator. I'm gonna start showing you many investment calculators over the year, or many Excel spreadsheets here. And I'm going to put all of these Excel spreadsheets that I use for buying a house, buying a car, investments. These are just spreadsheets I put together using Excel. I'm going to put them all in Google Classroom. And what I recommend for every single spreadsheet that I put here on Google Classroom, I think you should save a copy of it to your personal Gmail account, not your school Gmail account, because your school Gmail account is going to go away. And so I would save these to your personal Google Drive for later. I'm going to give you a budget, an investment calculator, a car buying calculator, a house buying calculator. And so just keep these in your personal Gmail Google Drive account. So later on, if when you go to do this, you go, oh, Shefferly said, I remember Shefferly's personal finance unit. Okay. So let's take a look at this. most people that come to see me about investing are in their mid 30s or early 40s. They either have just neglected saving, or they've just put it off, and then they realize, okay, I'm 35, 40 years old, I better start saving for retirement. And this is the typical person that I have to come see me, other than somebody who's almost 5 years out from retirement and they want me to help them plan for them. But let's say that, this is what the typical person does. So let's say that this person's making $40,000 a year. Okay. So for $40,000 a year, that's about $20 an hour. Okay. That's a middle-class job. And then they say, okay, I'm going to start saving 5% of my income, which is $2,000 a year. So they're going to save for 30 years, because right here, you can see that they're 35, and they're going to save just 5% of their income, which is $2,000 a year. And let's say they get 7% on their return right here. I think that's a realistic long-term rate of return you can get. So after 30 years, their $2,000 turns into $202,000. Okay. So that's pretty good, right? Because all they did was put in $2,000 for 30 years. So they put in $60,000 and they got 202 back, right? Because of what's called compound interest. Okay. Now, compound interest is the idea that your money grows on your money. Okay. So compounding would be sort of like exponential growth, like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, so 2000, that type of thing. Okay. So that is how investing works. Compound interest means you're getting interest upon interest upon interest. So your first year you make X percent, and then the next year you make, let's say the first year you make 7%, and the next year you make another 7%, but now you're making 7% of also the 7% you made earlier. And then that's the key idea of investing that I want you to take away from today is compound interest. Now, compound interest works when you let it grow. You have to give it time, okay? So notice that this person here, if you look at their value, this over here is 100,000 and this over here is 200,000. They really didn't see many gains for the first 10 years. Okay. Even the first 20 years, they didn't see many gains, right? But look at the last 10. So those last 10 years, that's when the compound interest started to kick in. Okay. So my advice for all of you is to start a Roth IRA this year and start investing in a Roth IRA. So take a look. Let's say that you're 22 years old. Okay. And let's say at 22, you do get a job making $20 an hour. I don't think that's unrealistic for you to think that at 22 years old, you could get a job making $20 an hour. I think that's a realistic amount, $40,000 a year. Okay. And let's say you start to put away 5% of your income. Now watch, all we did was start 13 years earlier. Okay. So we started putting away $2,000 a year 13 years earlier. So all we did was put in $26,000 more. That's it. Okay. This person started at 35 and went 30 years. So they put in $60,000. This person's going to start at 22, right? So they're going to put in just $86,000. They're going to put in just $26,000 more. Sorry, $26,000 more, right? But they're going to give it 13 more years of compound interest. Okay. Now watch what happens to this last number. Okay. All they did was put in 26,000 more, but they gave it 13 more years to compound. Okay. Watch what happens. Those extra 13 years and that $26,000 turned into over $300,000 more of growth. Why? Because we gave that investment the time to compound upon itself. Okay. Again, notice that from 22 to 32, they made almost no money at all. From 32 to 42, very little money at all, right? But look at 42 to 52 and look at 52 to 62. We have now got money that's compounding upon itself. And compounding, again, means that it's interest growing upon interest upon interest upon interest upon interest upon interest. And you get that exponential growth. The earlier you start, the better off you'll be. Okay. Now, if any of you are working right now, like Tristan, my son, he's working right now. He's 18 years old. Okay. I would recommend, he has a Roth IRA. Of course he does, because he's my son and I made him. Okay. But in a Roth IRA, you can put away $6,000 a year into a Roth IRA. That's the limit right now. I know that's a lot, but that's $500 a month. Okay. What if you were to put away $6,000 a year? And this is all you did was just $6,000 a year. Okay. So that's going to be 15%. Look what happens here. If you can start a Roth IRA when you're 18 years old and start putting away $6,000 a year, that's it. That's $500 a month. Okay. Now I know that's a lot of money, but that's not like life-changing money, $500 a month. Okay. Look at what that turns into by the time you're 65. Now, obviously this isn't inflation adjusted. Okay. So this is in current dollars. This isn't real dollars. So we would have to adjust this for inflation. But even with that, ladies and gentlemen, notice the compounding that happens here. Okay. So your savings rate, ladies and gentlemen, the earlier you start saving and the higher percentage you start saving is going to dictate how soon you reach financial independence. What if you save 20% of your income? Look at this. What if you get really aggressive and you save 30% of your income? Okay. And again, I'm going to give you this calculator later on. Okay. But the idea of compound interest, ladies and gentlemen, compound, compound, compound. Start saving early and start saving often as much as you can. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you options later in life. If you start waiting until you're 40 years old, and then at 40, you decide you can start save 10% of your income. Look what happened in the numbers here. You now have less options in life. Okay, so saving early and saving often is going to give you options at age 40 that this 40-year-old doesn't have because they didn't save anything. Okay, and so that comes from your choices and the choices you make with the money that you have. Okay, now the more you earn, the more you can save, the faster you can reach financial independence. Okay, the less you earn, the later you start saving, the later you're going to reach financial independence. Okay, now I'm not saying don't have fun in life. I'm not saying don't go to concerts and don't go on trips and don't buy clothes and don't eat out. But you just have to know that those things come with the sacrifice of options you'll have later on in life too. Okay, so let me stop this here real quick and let me come back to the PowerPoint if I could. Okay, and again, I'm just giving you two hypothetical people. Carl here started saving at 33, $5,000 a year, and at 65, Carl would have put in $110,000, and it's worth $700,000, assuming about a 7% rate of return. Sean, though, started at 22. He only put in $3,000 a year, so Sean put in $11,000 less than Carl, but Sean ends up with $300,000 more. Let me say it again. Sean put in less money investing than Carl, but he ends up at $300,000 more. Why? Because of that compound interest. Okay. Let me show you this graph right here. This is showing you financial independence. This is your savings rate. So if you save 5%, 10%, 15%, 30%, and this is the number of years you have to work before you can retire. Okay. There is a direct correlation between what percent of your income you save and the number of years you would need to work before you can retire. Okay, so if you start working full time at the age of 22 and you save 40% of your income, yeah, then that means by 44, you'd be able to retire. Or around there, 44, 45, something like that, depending on what the market does. But your savings rate is really what determines. Everybody wants to say it's the market, it's the market, it's the market. And yeah, the market does have that, but I'm going to teach you what to invest in. That's the next video I'm going to show you is where do you invest and what do you invest in? Obviously I'm an investment advisor, so I can't just say do this and recommend and have everybody go off that. But I'll give you some areas to go to take a look. But your savings rate determines how many years you're going to work. Okay. The lower savings rate you have, if you save 10% of your income from when you start working, you're going to work on average about 51 years. Okay. If you save 30% of your income, you're going to work on average about 28 years. Okay. Now, I don't recommend that you just retire and stop working. I think there's a lot of value to work. I find enjoyment from working. I like the fact that I am productive in society and I can go out and make a difference. But what high savings rates do is they allow you to pursue your passion and your interest at that age instead of going to a job of which you hate. Okay, I'm sure many of you know people that hate their job, but they go anyway. Why? Because they have to. Okay, high savings rates will allow you to pursue your career or the interest that you want to be in, because you have financial independence and you have that cushion to make choices. Okay, so the next video I do, I'll teach you some other just basic investing things, like what is a 401k, what is a 403b, what is a Roth IRA. I'll teach you about some different investment options that I think you should do. I'm going to try and make it as simple for you as I can for investing, because that's what I have found is that if you don't stick with it and you don't just keep investing, then all this is for naught. So I'm going to try and give you an investing philosophy, which is a very simple philosophy, because simple means you're more likely to stay with it. I could give you a way more complex investing philosophy, but then the likelihood that you'd stay with that investing philosophy are slimmer. So I'm going to try and give you something that is just easy to understand for the most part, and allow you to just have a simple investment philosophy, because the best investments are the ones that you don't think about and you actually don't touch. The best investments are the ones where just you have it automated, where every single week or every single month you have money going into your investments and you're not thinking about it at all. And they're just going into your investments, into an investment, which is a very simple investment. For most of you, I think that's the best thing. Okay, so that's the first unit. My first lesson in personal finance is frugality. Live below your means. Just because you make 100,000 doesn't mean you need to spend 100,000, right? And start investing early and start investing often, because compound interest. Okay, that is the key to investing, is letting your money compound on each other. You could be the worst investor in the world, not the worst investor, but you can be a bad investor. But if your savings rate is high and you have money that can compound, that makes up for a lot of mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. Again, if you have questions about anything I just covered today, please email me and I'll get back to you. Some of you are really going to like personal finance and some of you are not. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. All right, everybody, take care.